I can tell good people from bad ones. Good folks smell sweet, bad ones reek. But the ruthless, tyrannical emperor everyone talks about smells bitter. When no one was looking, I snuck him a handful of sweet rice cakes. He held the cakes and said coldly, "The last person who gave me sweets wanted me dead. What about you?" I told him, "I just want you to live a sweet, long life. I'm the only daughter of the Minister of Rights. I've had this weird sense since I was little. My nose works different. I can smell people's true nature. Good people smell sweet, bad people smell rotten. If anyone found out about my gift, we'd all get in huge trouble, so I barely left the house. I also never chatted much with anyone. My parents only realized something was off when I turned 16. Not only my nose was odd, my mind worked differently too. The doctor said my mind hadn't fully matured. I didn't get it, but I figured it meant I was slow. After that, Mom and Dad stopped locking me indoors. They hired tutors and took me out to wander. I was over the moon about it. Dad would always warn me. "Lanlin, if you smell someone rotten, don't say a word to strangers. Wait till we get home to tell Mom and me." He drilled that into me every single time we went out, and today was no exception. But today was different. Yang Qing told me it was the Emperor's birthday celebration. All officials ranked 4th and above could bring their families to the palace to celebrate. I knew who the Emperor was. A while back, Mom and I went to a theater and overheard people gossiping about him. I forgot most of what they said, only that everyone claimed he was an awful, terrible man. So he must have wreaked something awful. To test my theory, I lifted my head and took a deep sniff while everyone knelt low to greet him. No one else dared lift their eyes, so our gazes locked across the crowd easily. Nothing like I thought. He didn't smell rotten at all, and he was stunningly handsome. He looked just like an immortal from old scroll paintings. Before I could process it, Dad tugged my head down fast. We knelt flat on the ground, terrified. I knew I messed up. Dad told me before we left we couldn't stare at the Emperor. I didn't understand why, though. If someone's good looking, you should get to look. Just like the flowers in our yard, I loved staring at them all day long. The Emperor didn't scold me, and he didn't blame Dad either. All those rumors were lies. He wasn't good, but he wasn't evil either. I couldn't catch a whiff of rot or sweetness off him. It felt so strange. Dad cut my sniffing short, stuffed a handful of rice cakes in my arms, and sent Mom to show me the royal gardens. The palace gardens were way bigger than ours, filled with flowers I'd never seen before. There were rock mazes perfect for hide-and-seek too. While Mom chatted with the other noble ladies, I grabbed my rice cakes and snuck into the rockery. Either I was amazing at hiding, or Mom was really bad at finding people. She searched ages without spotting me. Then I ran straight into the Emperor. He stood behind one rock formation. Cool moonlight spilled all over him, making him look even more breathtaking. If the moon immortals from storybooks were men, they'd look exactly like him. A delicate young lady stood right across from him, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I'll give your majesty anything you want." The Emperor let out a dry laugh. "What do I want?" The lady answered, "If you make me your empress, my Li clan will serve you faithfully for all eternity." They talked on, but I couldn't hear most of it, nor did I understand a word. As soon as the lady left, the Emperor spun around and locked eyes with me. He was way sharper than Mom, found me instantly. I hopped out from behind the rocks, tilted my head, and grinned. "Your Majesty, how'd you know I was hiding here?" His pretty brows furrowed a little, and he walked toward me. Once he got close enough, I caught his scent. No rot, no sweet aroma at all. It was pure, sharp bitterness, just like the super bitter medicine the doctor gave me when I was sick once. The Emperor stepped right up to me, studied my face for a second, then asked softly, "You're Minister Shen's daughter, Shenlan?" I nodded, still staring up at him. Before he could say another word, I blurted out, "Why do you smell bitter, Your Majesty? Have you ever had candy?" He didn't expect that random question and froze for a split second. When he stayed quiet, I blinked at him. After a beat, he asked, "Why do you want to know?" "You smell so bitter, like you've never tasted anything sweet. But Dad warned me not to tell anyone about my nose. Said I couldn't share that secret with outsiders. So I pulled the rice cakes out of my sleeves, split half for him. Here, try these sweet rice cakes. I had some earlier, they're loaded with sugar, super sweet. I hoped it'd take that bitter edge off him." He glanced down at the cakes in my hands and huffed a quiet laugh. "Shenlan, you've got quite the bold streak." I beamed brightly. "Thanks for the compliment, Your Majesty." He froze again. Then I heard Mom calling my name not far off. She must have panicked, thinking I got lost somewhere. I wasn't that clumsy, though. I stuffed all the rice cakes into his robe, and he spoke in a cold tone. Someone gave me sweets once before, but all they wanted was me dead. I shot my head up fast, staring straight into his icy cold eyes. "What about you?" he asked me. For some odd reason, he looked lonely and sad, sadder than the soaking wet puppy I found in our yard once. I stood on my tiptoes to pat his head, but he was too tall, so I just hugged him lightly instead. "I hope you live a sweet, long life, Your Majesty." Mom's voice drew closer, and I stuck my tongue out. I pulled away fast, lifted my skirt, and hurried back toward her. I only took a few steps before remembering I had more to say, so I turned back to the frozen Emperor. I whispered, "That lady from earlier lied to you. Don't trust her. She smells rotten. Her stench gets way stronger when she's plotting something bad." I took off running without another word, so he couldn't ask how I knew. How could you tell? The Emperor sat on a tall throne, resting his chin on one hand, leaning down to stare at me. Mom and Dad were about to take me home when palace guards stopped us. They brought me to this huge, fancy throne room all alone. Only the Emperor and I were in the hall, and that bitter scent clung to him just as strong. I dodged his question and said, "Your Majesty, didn't you eat the rice cakes?" His beautiful eyes flickered, and he stood up, walking closer to me. That bitter smell wrapped around me thicker and thicker. "I've heard you're different from other kids," he said, towering over me. There was a weird look in his eyes I couldn't figure out. I thought he found out about my nose, so I swallowed hard, nervous, till he kept talking. "They said you're 16, but your mind hasn't fully grown. That's what this is about?" I breathed a huge sigh of relief, then argued, "My tutor says I'll catch up soon. I've been reading his poetry books lately. I can recite all the poems now." The Emperor let out another soft laugh. Right then, the eunuch who brought me in rushed into the room and knelt far off, speaking quietly. "Your Majesty, Minister Shen waits outside, begging to see you." I glanced at the eunuch, who kept his head down, silent, then looked back to the Emperor. He ignored the servant, only watching me, a faint smile tugging his lips. "Your father truly dotes on you." I nodded hard, my eyes shining bright. "Absolutely, my dad's the best father in the whole world. You're so lucky, Lanlin." "I never had a father, it's lonely." As he said that heavy bitter smell rolled off him in waves. Without thinking, I tried to comfort him. "What if my dad becomes your father too?" He froze completely, his dark eyes deep like ink, like they could swallow me whole. After a long quiet pause, he asked me, "Would that really be okay?" I nodded. "Sure thing." He smiled and called to the eunuch, "Bring Shen Feng in." Dad knelt on the floor and heard the Emperor say, "Shen Minister, I loved your birthday gift today." "Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty." That night, pearl was shipped all the way from the South Sea, one of the finest gems alive. I wasn't talking about the pearl. The Emperor glanced sideways at me, a soft smile on his face. "I meant your precious daughter." Dad's whole body jolted. He lifted his head to glance at me once, just one quick look, then slammed his forehead against the floor again, rushing to speak. "My young daughter is strange. Her mind's that of a small child, and she acts recklessly. If she offended you, please punish me instead." The Emperor still wore that gentle smile, lifting a hand to ruffle my hair. "You're too humble, Minister. Your daughter strikes me as incredibly bright." He's the first person who's ever called me smart, so he must be a good person. Once I chase away that bitter scent on him, I'll definitely catch a sweet aroma off him. I smiled up at him, thinking that. Then he looked down at me, rubbing my hair softly. He whispered gently, "Lanlin also said she wanted your father to be mine too." I nodded happily, but when I glanced back at Dad, his face had gone deathly pale, and he smashed his head against the stone floor once more. "I'm unforgivable. I failed to raise my daughter properly, letting her ramble nonsense before you. Punish me, Your Majesty." I ran over right away. Seeing his bruised forehead made my eyes sting with tears. "Dad, did I mess up again?" I leaned down and blew softly on his hurt forehead. Dad grabbed my wrist and pulled me down to kneel beside him, pleading to the Emperor. "Her mind's immature. She speaks without thought. All blame lies on me. Please don't take it out on my daughter." The Emperor walked over to us and pulled me back to my feet. "There's no need for such self-blame, Minister." The Emperor's smile was warm and lovely. "I think Lanlin's pure and adorable. Every word she says touches my heart deeply. You don't need to hide what's on your mind. Honesty's always the right way." Dad crumpled to the stone floor like he'd been struck hard. I figured I'd done something terrible again. After we left the palace, Dad stayed up all night and Mom held me tight, crying. I teared up in her arms. "Mom, I never told the Emperor my secret about my nose. He even promised to reward Dad and me after all." Mom squeezed me even tighter, sobbing. "It's all our fault, baby girl." I couldn't understand what they'd done wrong, till early the next morning. Palace messengers brought an imperial edict. The Emperor kept his word. Servants hauled multiple chests full of gold, silver, and jewels to our estate. The head eunuch finished reading the edict and smiled at me. "Consort Chun, in 3 days the lucky day arrives, perfect for you to move into the palace." I looked up at him, blinked hard. "My name isn't Consort Chun. I'm Shenlan." He just kept smiling. "You are Consort Chun now. His Majesty personally granted you this title." After handing the scroll to Dad, he led the whole entourage away in a grand procession. Mom had held back tears all night, but finally broke down crying at the sight of the edict. I pulled our maid Dudao aside and whispered, "What's a Consort Chun?" Dudao's lip trembled and she cried, "It means you're the Emperor's wife, one of his concubines." I tilted my head, thinking it's kinda like Mom and Dad's relationship, right? "So why are everyone crying then?" I turned toward my parents and wiped the tears off Mom's cheeks. "Don't cry, Mom. I don't mind being His Majesty's Consort Chun." Mom cried even harder hearing that. Over the next 3 days, several senior ladies in waiting came to train me on palace etiquette. All the rules were super complicated. I only barely picked up the basics after tons of stumbles. The last tutor stood in front of me for ages, staring at my eyes, her face flushing pale then red repeatedly. I stared back, innocent. "What's marital intimacy?" She bit her lip and said, "Miss, just remember to obey His Majesty when you share a bed. Stay respectful all other times too, it's nothing too scary." On the day I moved to the palace, Mom and Dad both cried, and I cried along with them. When the Emperor arrived, I was still sniffling. He walked up to me, "Scared to be my consort?" I lifted my teary eyes to look at him. He looked different today, draped in bright imperial yellow robes that made his features glow even more.